Hello and welcome to a live question and answer for the Islamabad 3.0 lawsuit. My guest over here, Rabea, is joining us from her busy day. Thank you, Rabea.
Thank you for having me.
I'm not saying your name right. I'm used to typing it. How do you say your name?
So it's Rabea in Arabic and Rabea, I guess, in the US.
So we've got just a few people joining us right now. But some people are going to watch this later, not live. I would say if you have questions, go ask those questions, type them on YouTube or Facebook, and they should show up to where we can see them and we can answer the questions live, okay? First, I'm going to do like a really quick overview of the lawsuit. You can find information about this group lawsuit opportunity on our webpage, Ready Go Law's webpage, readygolaw.com, by clicking at the very top. And there's a little video where I'm explaining the lawsuit. I talk about how this lawsuit is for the family members of U.S. citizens and green card holders that are waiting on an interview at Islamabad that have been waiting over a year. Okay, that's this section. And then I tell about the background. So basically, this issue has been important to me. I've been watching what's going on at Islamabad now for a few years. And first filed a lawsuit called Naveed. That lawsuit has been dismissed by the judge as moot because everybody was interviewed already. We did not have the success we wanted in that lawsuit, but you can only use a lawsuit as a vehicle for until everybody gets what they want. When everybody gets what they want, we dismiss the lawsuit, or the judge does.
And everyone getting the interview is the success, right? Like,
yeah,
if
that's the goal.
Everyone gets processed before an order is done, it's a success for the plaintiffs.
Yes, it's the goal. The goal is not to win the lawsuit. The goal is to get everybody the visas. So, second lawsuit, Iqbal. I talk a lot about this here. I filed this in June. I had a hearing in October the 13th. The government filed a declaration on October 25th. And on November 9th, the Judge Mueller, she issued an order granting the government's motion to the policy challenges. But as far as unreasonable delay, she said, you know what? They have a case. And so she denied their motion to dismiss as far as unreasonable delay for basically a group of 3 IR1 couples that had waited over a year for an interview. Well, I thought, well, there's a bunch of people that have waited over a year for an interview and they need another group lawsuit. So that is the context for why I decided to bring this lawsuit, okay? Eligibility to participate, everybody has to be current if their family preference category. Says that as number 4. Let me see here. So you have to be already past the USCIS process with I-130 approved. You already have to be DQ, and only for family preference only for family categories, either immediate family or family preference. Cost to participate, very affordable. $800, but it's broken up in 2 payments, $400 initial payment, and then we defer $400 until after the visa is issued to the primary beneficiary and they enter the United States. Okay, so I have some frequently asked questions and answers there, but what I'd like to do is take some questions from the live audience. So I know some of you are watching, so drop in your comments and your questions.
Do you have the visa bulletin topic in the FAQs?
Visa bulletin topic.
Just for background, everyone, there were some of you that were interested but are not yet current on the final action chart of the visa bulletin. So with that, of course, you don't have a delay claim because there's just no visa number available yet.
Correct. I did not add that to the frequently asked questions to the website, but I will, because it is the most frequently asked question. And there's a reason. There are millions. Am I right on that? I think that there are millions of people waiting for the visa bulletin to move.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of you all out there. To be fair, this lawsuit could help you because we've got a clog in a drain. The U.S. Embassy Islamabad. Unclogging that drain will help the people that are, behind it. Not the best metaphor. I'm sorry for the Foreign Service workers at Islamabad. I just referred to you as a clogged drain. Sorry about that. Okay. We received a question in Rabea's Facebook group. I forget the name of that group. What is the name of that group?
NVC and USCIS group.
A wonderful place where people go to collectively help each other and solve each other's problems. I love it. Okay. So there was a question there this morning that said, will non-plaintiffs benefit? Which is a great question. Especially in light of the group lawsuits that I have filed in the last 5 years. Let me tell you why. There have been some group lawsuits like Young, Good Luck, Mohammed, Thongjong, where the plaintiffs only benefited. And then there's been others, Kennedy, Ray, I'm forgetting some, where, well, I'm forgetting some, but where non-plaintiffs benefited because the judge decided, you know what, I'm going to give relief to the people that aren't before the court. That it could go either way on most lawsuits. This lawsuit is only about the named plaintiffs. We're only filing claims for unreasonable delay. We're not doing policy challenges. The reason we're not doing that is we did it in Naveed and we did it in Iqbal, and those 3 challenges that we brought were not, the government denied the motion to dismiss on those grounds. So this is going to be a very clean complaint that says this group of people, they've been unreasonably delayed, and so let's do something about it. So I think it's very unlikely that non-plaintiffs will benefit, except negligibly and indirectly, because maybe the line will move a little. Okay, so are we starting to have questions? If I say something confusing or too fast, Rabea, please stop me.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is our first question. Metal Stinger says, hi, what do you do when after waiting for 2 years for an interview and they put you into AP and the AP takes a long time? Should they take care of AP in weeks rather than months? And in some cases, many months. It's a great question. This group lawsuit is not about that. This group lawsuit is about trying to get you the interviews, okay? We might file a group lawsuit for people in AP. We have one pending right now for Iranians. I agree with you that it's not fair, that it's taking several months, or in some cases, sometimes years, for people to come out of post-interview AP. And that's why we do legal challenges on that. But that's not what this group lawsuit's for. If you've already had your interview, you're not eligible for the ISL 3.0 group lawsuit. I think that's rather like a new development over the last, what would you say, Rabea, 1 year, where a lot of Pakistanis are seeing the DS 5535 and going into AP. That didn't happen during the Trump administration, did it?
We did see it after after the COVID pause. But what I do believe to see is that they actually started finishing it faster for the majority of cases. So the DS 5535 was what felt like a dark hole, right? Once you're handed this form, you're just sitting around for years and nothing moves. And we are seeing them cleared fairly quickly in Islamabad, some after only a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I noticed that the DS 5535 is faster for Pakistanis than it is for Iranians. I did a poll in a Telegram group for Iranians with about 500 people answering, and over 50% had been waiting for 6 months to a year. But the scary part is the outlier, there were like 10 people that had waited over a year and some that had waited up to 2 years. That's terrifying. Reminds me of the Trump administration. But when I did that same poll in a much smaller WhatsApp group with Pakistanis, I think the delay, like you said, it's like 3 months usually.
Yeah.
Okay. Nasrullah says $800 is the amount for a family with an F4 case. The answer is yes, but you don't have to pay the whole 800 up front. You only need to get your petitioner to pay $400 by the 24th, which is Friday.
Yes, yeah,
Friday. 3 days. I think it's another question. Or $400 is due upon the case file. Actually, it's due before then because we're filing the case December 1st, but you need to pay when you register before Friday. And then the other $400 is due on the entry of the principal applicant to the United States. Exactly. Worst case scenario, when that principal applicant gets in the U.S. and they're earning U.S. dollars, they could get a job and they can pay that. And it's not a burden on the petitioner. There's lots of jobs in the U.S. right now. Abdul says, do you have any past experience of filing a lawsuit at Islamabad embassy and getting interviews earlier? Oh my goodness. Abdul, great question. I have experience with 2 other group lawsuits that I pointed to them on my website. I talk about the Naveed versus Blinken lawsuit and the Iqbal versus Blinken lawsuit. The Iqbal Blinken lawsuit is pending and active, and the judge is sympathetic to our unreasonable delay claims. There's a transcript there from a hearing that will show you that. We've also filed several individual mandamus lawsuits on behalf of specific families, and where they were waiting on interviews at Islamabad, and it hasn't been 100% success. Okay, sometimes I feel like the interviews have been accelerated, and sometimes not. Same when we file lawsuits with people in AP. Sometimes they accelerate the AP, and sometimes not. The crazy thing is the government attorney that is assigned to defend these cases, they are almost with me in trying to get the State Department to accelerate the interviews or accelerate the final adjudications because they don't want to fight a lawsuit that keeps people out of the U.S. Nobody wants that on their record. It's the wrong side of history, right? So very often the government attorneys are sympathetic, but there's people hiding in the Office of Legal Advisor in the visa office at the State Department, and that can be the stubborn area. We don't know what they're going to do. Okay, our fan says, what's the difference between F4 and F41? I think Rabea is more likely to know than I am. Do you know?
Yeah, so F4 is the umbrella category for siblings of a U.S. citizen, and then F41 would be the principal applicant, which is the qualifying principal applicant, the sibling of the United States citizen. F42 would be the spouse, of the applicant, and F43 would be all the children.
F44 is the dog. Just kidding. Just kidding. There's no visa for the dog. I'm glad you brought up F4. I don't know if the group is generally following U.S. politics, but there are many in the Republican Party that want to end what they call derogatory chain migration, and they are lobbying to actually end this visa category. So in my view, family preference categories, especially F4, F3, and F1, have a reason to participate in this lawsuit, because you're not, just because this visa bulletin's been going on and you've been waiting for 5, 10, 20 years, they could pull that rug out from under you and end that visa category. They want to do that. When I say they, I'm talking about a minority of Americans that have Republican representation in Congress. Hopefully they don't get what they want. We have an election coming up in less than a year, next November, that will that could change things drastically.
Yeah. So everyone who's a US petitioner and has someone who lobbies against chain migration, they call it, you don't want to like that person.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the backlog, the worldwide backlog for F4 at the moment is over 2 million that are waiting for the visa bulletin to become current for them.
Right.
I agree with you. If I was an F4 and I was current, I would do what it takes to get that interview and
do everything you can to get on the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Mansoor says, first of all, thank you so much for hosting Rabea. Yeah, everybody loves to see her. I got to see her in person a few weeks ago. It was very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
I have been seeking your advice in various matters for the last 3 years. And this was for you. And you supported us on every occasion. I'm watching you live. Mansoor is happy to be watching you.
Thank you for joining. But he also has questions here. I see it's actually a good question. And
we are afraid that if we participate in the lawsuit, U.S. Islamabad embassy will put us in AP at the time of interview or take any action against us. Is there any guarantee that we do this? Last suit. Okay, that is a great question. The answer is no, that's not going to happen, but let me explain why, okay? When they put you in AP, it's because generally, my theory, something flashes up on their screen that says, oh, we need a DS 5535, and it's out of the consular officer's hands. The reason I think that is because very often consular officers are very optimistic with visa applicants until the last minute they push something on their screen and then their face changes and they turn and they say, oh, I'm giving you administrative processing. So I don't think that, well, let me start over. Consular officers can only refuse people for grounds in the Immigration and Nationality Act, and AP is one of those. But I think that AP is not because of the consular officers. I think it's coming from the visa office. Second thing I want to say is consular officers don't want to hurt you anyway. They go into this business because they like giving visas. They like people bringing immigrants to the U.S. Sometimes they're stuck with bad policies. But the bad policies come from the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and not from the people at the embassy. People at the embassy are generally friendly.
And just to add to that, for those that don't know, I actually used to be Curtis plaintiff in Young v. Trump, and we really had good experience there. And I mean, that lawsuit was very different because it was challenging a policy, but the judge had ordered status reports and updates, which also came with some internal State Department cables, which are notifications that are coming from DC to the embassies. And one of these cables actually stated that SAO, Security Advisory Opinion, which is a different term for AP coming from the DS 5535, should be expedited for plaintiffs. So instead of holding them back, it felt like they are rather trying to process us as soon as possible to finish this lawsuit and not having to appear in court anymore.
Right. Great memory. One thing I think of, like, the visa process sometimes is very like a dark cave, and you can't see all the little monsters and creatures and badness that's coming. And one thing I love about Rabea's Facebook group, is it kind of turns the light on, and it like says, hey, this is going to happen next, and this is not going to happen. And it turns the light on, and it lets people know what's going to happen. And they're not bad actors when the light's on, because people will get caught. Okay. And that's also what a lawsuit does. If somebody at the State Department decided we're going to get them back for joining the lawsuit, well, guess who they're going to have to explain their actions to? Their attorney at the State Department, us, the judge. If you all want, I could get a reporter, a journalist involved, and they could start explaining themselves to the journalist. We could sue them personally. I mean, basically, that's the one time you can trust a government employee to do the right thing, when everybody's watching them and the light's on. Okay. I get excited about that question. Serum says, why is it taking so long for DQ ED cases of F4 to get interview letters? Embassy said it will take care of backlog by December 2023. And with this lawsuit, what effect are you expecting on timeline? I think ED is part of the DQ'd. Right?
DQ'd. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The policy explanation for your question is Secretary Blinken has prioritized issuance of visas to students and to tourists because they think it's important to the economy. And whenever you prioritize one thing, something's deprioritized. And I think in this case, it's family preference categories. Also, at least for a few years, Islamabad has been severely understaffed, especially when you take into account the closing of Kabul. Recently, we've heard that the staffing is ramping up, but with the size of the backlog there, it's going to take a long time to clear out that backlog. Okay, I think we're going to be talking about that backlog a year, 2 years from now still, until it's a priority of the Secretary of State. So you asked, the final part of that question is, what effect are you expecting on the timeline? To be clear, this lawsuit, we're looking to accelerate the interviews for the people that participate, the named plaintiffs. Okay. There may be an indirect benefit in that the publicity to that causes the visa office of the State Department to better staff Islamabad, which would be great, but that's not our goal. We have to take care of our clients, our paying clients, and we want to get their interviews scheduled sooner. What effect? Ideally, what we're going to ask for in the prayer is, we're really going from the time you hire us, we want everybody scheduled in 90 days. That's what our dream is. That's what our goal and our hope is. I stopped short of saying that's our expectation because there are factors beyond our control. We don't know if we're going to get assigned to the same judge or not. If we do, that's a good thing. We don't know if the State Department's going to look differently at this case than they looked at the last case. They may decide that they don't want to deal with this lawsuit and schedule everybody for interview, and then we have to dismiss it because it would be moot, right? Okay, Mansoor asked something else. Right, it's just the last part of his question. No retaliation. Embassy will not retaliate. David Webb from Facebook says, hi, my wife had an interview last week, case IR1, and without any reason, put her into AP. We have waited for 3 years for this day. I don't understand why they're putting so many people into AP, and there is a way to email or call them to expedite, prioritize AP cases, since we are already suffered in waiting years.
It's difficult. I think we can say there is never a without any reason, because it's that person is flagged for AP to the consular officer. So the consular officer looks at his screen, wants to approve the visa. It says this case needs to go through AP.
Right.
What the reasons behind it are, we'll never know. There lots of intelligence goes into that, and it may be right, it may be wrong, it may be that the applicant just has a similar name to someone who's supposed to be flagged, and rightfully so. So there needs to be an investigation that the person that is applying is indeed not the person whose name is flagged, right? So it can be anything, but there's always a reason, if that helps in any way.
Something I want to get at in lawsuits, it wouldn't be this lawsuit because it would be a lawsuit challenging AP, is how many times is it actually a human making the decision? Because I have this belief that it's an algorithm, and it's an algorithm with flaws because nobody's looking closely at it. Like General Dynamics was given $16 million. I think that's right. In 2017, 2018 to put this together. And then everybody's like, yep, we got a enhanced vetting system, and nobody looks at the algorithms to see if it's wrong or not. I noticed, I think this is still true. I think Mohammeds are disproportionately in AP. I almost think that there's something in the algorithm that says, oh, your name's Mohammed. Oh no, we better do extra vetting. Just insane. But I could be wrong. Just speculating, like Rabea said. All we can do is speculate about that because the State Department's very protective of their secrets. That's why they don't like litigation, because judges can ask them questions in open court that they have to answer. Okay.
I had a 1-year-old child, not even a year. First name Ahmad, of course, ended up with the DS 5535 as well.
Well, yeah, but we don't know his travel history. We don't know what he did on social media, Rabea. Come on.
I know, right?
Okay. Saram says that's very bad news for F4 families, and they have the biggest backlog for almost 3.5, 4 years after DQ. I know. And there are hundreds of you, so I don't understand why you haven't registered to the US to this lawsuit. I realize that it's complicated, that your petitioners are in the US and your beneficiaries are in Pakistan, but you have the most to gain from this lawsuit, probably.
Yeah.
Nasrullah says, is there a probability suing the government backfires and embassy rejects the case in revenge of filing a lawsuit? No, for reasons I explained earlier. But also I want to say, the people that work at the embassy, they don't want to get back at you. People that work for the U.S. government just go to work and then they go home and watch TV. They listen to Taylor Swift. They're not that invested in their careers that they want to seek revenge on people that sue the government. Suing the government is something Americans do. I've had plaintiffs in several lawsuits that are U.S. government employees of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Department of Justice. The people that are on the other side of you are actually suing the government too. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's
it's
what we
do.
Very,
very American thing.
Yeah.
I remember when I was living in Iraq for a while. In Iraq, if you have a dispute, you take a slipper, and in the US, you file a lawsuit. It's just every country has its different solutions for things, and in the US, I guess
that explains a lot.
Everyone probably has filed a lawsuit before.
I remember the reporter throwing the shoe at George Bush. Now I understand. Okay. Okay. Hamza says, hi, my dad, who is a green card holder. He applied for my mom. So it's F2A. how long it takes for F2A for Islamabad embassy. Okay, so let's break your question down here. We need to know when the priority date is to know whether or not the case is current in the visa bulletin, because the visa bulletin retrogressed. Generally, I'm telling, if people file I-130 for their spouse right now, and I'm telling them it's going to be in a 2.5 to 5 year wait, with the 5 year wait being more likely at Islamabad. If there's any way your dad can get your mother out of Pakistan so that they could interview at another embassy, that would be a good idea. There are embassies that also have backlogs, like Abu Dhabi, that I know it's easier access, but that's not ideal because they also have a backlog. And then there's smaller embassies like Oman that a lot of Pakistanis just recently transferred to, so we don't know how that's going to work out. For the first wave that transferred, it worked out good. I think that there's 1 or 2 consular officers there just working like crazy because they got a lot of people scheduled and interviewed, but a lot of them went into AP too. I thought it was curious. I would say 90%. Rabea, would you say that that's true, that of the Pakistanis that went to Oman, Muscat, go into AP?
I have not kept tabs of Oman that closely. I know that some went into AP. I couldn't check a percentage, but
right.
Yeah, I believe it's really going by nationality and not by embassy, because we have Montreal also, right? Pakistanis that go to Montreal and interview there, they get the DS 5535 as well. Canadians don't
right.
get. So
right.
Yeah, it follows you to around the world to any embassy.
I have a couple Canadians right now that I represent who did get it, the DS 5535, which surprised me because they don't have any, they're not immigrants. So I think Montreal has a reputation, like people think it would be a great embassy because the US and Canada are so much alike, but I don't think it is. I think that they're giving more scrutiny at Montreal. If you were going to go to an embassy in North America, I would say Ciudad Juarez in Mexico. High volume embassy, great consular chief, and they just get it done. They get work done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Insightful information says, when we receive interview letter F4 visa category, priority date March 2007 and DQ April 2021. I have to look at the visa bulletin every time because
it's current there for F4 there on April 22nd, 2007. But the DQ date is over a year. Like Islamabad just scheduled March 2020 DQ. So
right. So you're eligible to participate in this lawsuit, and you very much could benefit of this lawsuit because you're looking at a delay that goes into the next presidential term, which could mean a very different immigration policy and law in the U.S. So eligible to participate, I recommend that you do. Hamad says, anything can be done for pending I-130 for 2 years for F2A category? Ahmad, when you say pending I-130, I assume that you mean at USCIS. And this is an interesting question because that's an unreasonable delay, and you could file a lawsuit for that, and we could accelerate it. But would it be worth it? Because if you if the I-130 was just submitted, the priority date was 2 years ago, that's November of 2021. It's not current in the visa bulletin. So it's like you're driving down the road, you see a bunch of traffic, you speed up to get there faster. You don't really do that because you know you're going to have to slam on the brakes. So yes, something can be done to accelerate a delayed I-130 for people that are not current in the visa bulletin, but do you want to do it because it's not going to benefit you? Ultimately, it's unlikely to benefit you. Ultimately, you don't want to do things that are futile. that won't really help. Wait until it's current in the visa bulletin, and then we talk.
Yeah. And depending on which F2A it is, if it's, for instance, an F2A for a child and the child was 19 years old when you filed, then it's actually beneficial the longer the I-130 is not approved. Ideally, you want the I-130 to be pending until you're current on the visa bulletin, because your child is only protected from aging out until while the I-130 is pending, and then again when a visa number is available. So you basically want the I-130 to be pending all those 4 years or whatever long the wait is.
Yes, that is a nuance of CISPA that I forget to explain, because I normally deal with people when it's too late, but you're in a unique position in that group that you can warn people, this is what's coming. If you've got derivative children that are teenagers or older, you do not want the I-130 approved until it's current. So great point. Okay, Sad says, how long they take to resolve the AP process? What if they don't take any action in the meantime? Okay, that's not about this group lawsuit. In Pakistan, like we discussed earlier, it's not as bad as for some other nationalities. It's usually 3 months, something like that. We file individual mandamus lawsuits for that, by the way, but that's not what this group lawsuit is. Mansour says, Trump's recent statements are quite troubling. Yes, in which he is saying that if he becomes president, immigration will be closed. If he does, what will happen to those who are waiting for interview letter?
he closed immigration once before when COVID started.
We know what's going to happen because you can go to immigrant visa statistics for 2017 to 2020 and see it in paper. Like there's a dramatic drop in the number of immigrants that were admitted to the United States. Not because of one thing. There was Proclamation 9645, which was the Muslim ban, which only applied to like 5 countries. And then they expanded it with 9983, that also called the African ban. And then what Rabea remembers really well is Proclamation 10014, where they pretended like COVID was a reason to say we just don't want these certain people because they might take our jobs. Come on.
Yeah.
So that was the most comprehensive immigration ban in history, and it's not recognized as that because everybody thinks it was about COVID. But the 4 years of the Trump administration that we already saw, because of multiple policies across the board, they throttled immigration, and that's what they'll do again. Yeah. Hopefully they won't get elected.
It would be silly to expect anything better than what we saw in the previous 4 years if he gets reelected.
If anything, it'll be worse. Mansour says Trump is only making political.
He feels the confirmation that what he did was good, so he's just going to put one on top of it, or 5.
Yeah. What he's making now are political statements, but they're also true. Like, this is what he will do. Yeah. So that's one thing actually people like about Trump is he does what he says he's going to do. He has this monstrous idea and then he does it. That's a little different than Biden, who does not say he's going to be a monster. And then some of the things that he does feel like he's a monster. So Taha says, I live in Pakistan, just got married a few months ago. Congratulations. My wife has applied a spouse visa for me. I want to know why there is so late process in approving because my wife has one. It is becoming. Husband, wife has one. Okay.
Probably they should be together, not separated for 4 years like the United States government is doing currently.
Right. I agree. Would have been helpful to see if your spouse in the U.S., if she's a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, to be able to better give you an expectation of what's going to happen. But that's not what you're asking. Why is there so late process? There's a couple different reasons. One, the law itself only allows so many. If it's a green card holder spouse, there's only so many visas they have. Second, it's not a priority for the State Department. Third, Islamabad staffing has not been a priority for the State Department. What's funny is knowing the reasons doesn't always help. It doesn't make you feel, it doesn't solve the problem. There's a lot of debate, like, for example, over climate change. So, like, did man cause climate change? And I feel like we've been arguing over that for about 50 years, 60 years. And the thing is, we need to do something about it. Let's leave that debate behind. And that's kind of what I feel like what's going on for immigrants waiting interviews at Islamabad. I've made all these policy challenges trying to get at what's causing it. But you know what? No matter what's causing it, State Department can do something about it. Court can do something about it. We just have to take people to court.
Yeah.
Okay. Nasrullah says, what if the daughter of a principal applicant got married in 4 years of wait time of interview? Oh, do we have to inform the embassy or NVC about the marriage? What should we do? Okay. Do you want to break the news, or do you want me? I'll do it. The daughter of a principal applicant. Wait.
So she's not going to immigrate. I think that's what you're getting at, right? But
right. I was looking for the visa category.
Understands that. I think he just wants to know if he needs to inform anyone. You can inform the embassy at the interview.
Yes.
You just bring her marriage certificate and tell them, and they will remove her from the case. That's not a big deal.
Right. Sometimes what I do is try to get the DS-260 unlocked after the interview is scheduled, so you can make those changes before you go in. There's one box there that says, will this person immigrate with me? And you just change that answer from yes to no.
Sure.
But do not unlock the DS-260 if you do not have an interview scheduled.
Right.
You want to wait.
That's the same again, I think.
Yeah, same questioner, different question. The estimated time is showing the remaining time is 2 months. Oh, you're looking at the USCIS processing time. And wow, that is misleading. And you're thinking that 2 months is, okay. The USCIS processing time is only for the first part of this process. That's for the I-130 process. Once that petition's approved, then it goes to NVC, and then that's a different process. And for people waiting on Islamabad, it's a longer process. So,
but if it's showing 2 remaining months in your account, then it absolutely can take more time. So the countdown will just run out, and then it will say we are taking longer than expected to make a decision on your case. A little bit more reliable is when you look on the USCIS website per service center for the I-130. Processing times there are a little bit more reliable than in the individual account, but it's all rough guesstimates, really.
Right. They say 80%. 80%.
Yeah.
Cases. Yeah. However, if it's for the spouse of a U.S. citizen, I recommend a lawsuit for that, right? So get with me, not this group lawsuit, but an individual lawsuit. Alicia says, I have registered for the group lawsuit. Yay, thank you. Just wanted to confirm, what is the success rate like for F2A? For context, my priority date is April 2017. Q date is October 2020. Wow, you've waited an extremely unreasonable amount of time. That's 6 years. Success rate is difficult to talk about when we're doing something novel like a group lawsuit. Basically, we've done 2 group lawsuits like this before. Naveed, everybody got their interview, but most of that was probably organic. Second lawsuit was Iqbal, and one of the plaintiffs has got interviewed, probably organic. The lawsuit's ongoing, so we do not yet know the outcome. So the success rate, I really don't know how to put a number on that. I would just say it's not guaranteed to work, but if you're somebody that wants to do everything you can to make something happen, the lawsuit is for you.
No guarantee, but you can choose to just wait and not do anything, or you do something.
Okay, Nasrullah is following up from this question, and I was scared of this. She actually wants to immigrate. Well, then she needs to not have married.
Yeah.
I don't think a divorce can fix it. Let me think about this. Maybe. Talk with an immigration attorney, hire an immigration attorney. I think that the second she became married, she was no longer a derivative. But maybe if she got a divorce, if she's willing to do that, maybe she could become a derivative again. I don't know. But here's what you cannot do. I'll go on.
Yeah, she will definitely not be able to immigrate as a derivative as long as she's married, and definitely need legal advice, because I think even if a divorce would put her back in, CISPA would play a role as well again, right? At what age did the divorce happen,
Right.
if it's a CISPA protected? So very, very difficult.
Right.
Shouldn't have gotten married to begin with, yeah.
Exactly. And you can't really make misrepresentations about that, because that could compromise the immigration route for the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And I've seen weird situations where the derivative marries, doesn't tell the State Department, comes into the U.S., and then tries to petition for their spouse that they lied to the State Department about, which can cause a domino effect of being, first of all, that petition's not going to be approved, but it could end in the removal and the revocation of the green card for the daughter. So you just cannot make misrepresentations to the State Department. It's a very unforgiving agency. Fatima's collections from Pakistan. That's great. I'm not sure what question you asked, though.
There's some texts coming after.
Oh, okay. Here, I'll skip to those.
Let's continue. Mohammed.
Oh, you want to go? Okay. My wife.
That's not a question about the lawsuit. That case is not yet eligible for the lawsuit.
Correct. Mansour says, if I participate in the lawsuit, how long is it likely to produce results? First of all, there's two different kinds of results in a group lawsuit. One is the State Department takes actions because they want to moot the lawsuit and make the lawsuit go away. What they don't want is to come and have to argue in their motion to dismiss, or come in before the court in oral arguments and say, plaintiffs are right. We haven't scheduled any of these people for an interview, and it's a big group. They do not want to do that. So often we will see they will select, cherry pick the most compelling cases and schedule them for interviews so they can go in and brag to the judge and say, well, look, plaintiffs are crazy. We're scheduling people for interviews. We've already scheduled plaintiff A, B, and C. So that's one result we get. Second result we can get is a judge compelling the State Department to schedule the interviews, which happened in the Young versus Trump case that Rabea mentioned earlier. It's happened in other cases, Muhammad and Fang Zheng back in the day. So our goal, our hope, is within 3 months of hiring us. Hopefully by February, we see some progress. Okay. No guarantee on that. We're not trying to get the lawsuit over as fast as possible. We're trying to get the visas. So if we keep the lawsuit alive, it's because we're using it as leverage to get the visas. What will happen with F4 category?
That's a whole bunch of individual.
Yeah.
But Fatima, your case is not in the queue for an interview yet. Your priority date isn't current on the visa bulletin. You need to keep monitoring the visa bulletin. And once your priority date is older than the date listed in the final action chart, then you are in line for an interview.
Right. Ask your petitioner to lobby their member of Congress to prioritize family preference category visas.
Good one, yeah.
That's one tip you can do. Okay. I mean, it's not going to give you an individual result, but it's going to give the collective result that's in the best interest of everyone here. Okay. Sundell says, hi, can we expedite AP process? I've waited 2 years for an interview and was put into AP. My career and family life is massively being affected. Please guide and help. It's been 2 weeks since I was put into AP. Rabea can weigh in if I'm wrong here, but
mandamus, individual.
Yeah, individual mandamus lawsuit, but also massively being affected. I need to know more details about that, because whether or not an expedite is warranted has a lot to do if it's a life or death matter. Okay, so how it's being affected is very important. If it's just regular like depression and financial hardship, well, guess what? That's happening to everybody. That's not going to really get you an expedite, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But also understand
always,
that
when evaluating those things, right? We may sound very harsh with that, because I keep saying that in the group over and over as well. Depression and financial hardship isn't really something. So if you look at it from the U.S. government perspective, the petitioner decided to marry a foreigner, so they basically chose that, okay, there's going to be a while where we have to have 2 households and so on and so forth, right? It's an arrangement that both parties knowingly go into.
right.
So the US government stance would probably be, why do we need to change something because you decide to marry a foreigner? It sounds harsh, but
right. I will say my other law firm, Morris and Urena, in August, we got a hold of a Freedom of Information Act request, production. Okay, there it is. If you go to this blog entry on Morris and Urena's website, there's an audio where they're actually talking about whether or not consular officers should ask for expedite requests see, the vetting is being done in DC. So you would need to ask the consular officer to do the vetting, and then the consular officer would need to ask the visa office. And right here, they are telling consular officers not to do this. So I will attempt to read the actual response that we got from our SAC colleague. SAC is the security advisory people and clearance people, and I will say that an expedite for everybody is an expedite for nobody. So they're just saying don't do it. So even if you did expedite, get the consular officer, if you ask the consular officer to expedite, they're told by their boss not to do it. But then if they ask the visa office, those folks, they're going to say no anyway. So it's futile to try to expedite a case that's in DS 5535 vetting unless you or AP, unless you have an extremely compelling case. But if you have that extremely compelling case, or the delay's been really unreasonable, it's been 6 months in AP or something, get with me. We could do an individual mandamus lawsuit. That's not related to what we're here talking about today, though.
And I have to drop in 7 minutes. Let's see if we can filter some more for the actual topic today.
Yeah. Here's a IR5, I think.
No, she's an I think Alishba is F2A.
Okay.
Or let me see.
If it is helpful, ways.
Yeah, she's F2A. Her mother filed for her, I believe.
Okay. So yes, we want you to participate, please. If your case is current in the visa bulletin and you've been DQ for more than a year, which it sounds like you have, we want you to participate.
She's already registered.
Oh.
And Alishba, to your question, I don't want to jump the gun here, but that's a fantastic thing where Curtis may possibly ask for a self-written affidavit and some proof that you've already tried to expedite, because the US petitioner is not well. So those are, of course, amazing things to show during the filing, right?
Right. Our paralegal team, Isabella, Elena, Farshad, they are already collecting that kind of evidence for the people that are registering. So, my winner of DV 2024, my case is going through how can I hire a lawyer. Not related to this group lawsuit. You could hire a lawyer. I'd recommend you don't hire a lawyer yet. Wait till after at least till after January. It's premature to say you have an unreasonable delay. Shaz Zabe says, hello, is it recommendable to apply a K3 visa for my wife after her DQ? People saying it's a 1 in a million chance that she'll get the visa. So should I go for K3 or wait for interview letter? Actually, I have an answer, and Rabea can weigh in if she thinks I'm crazy. If you go to visa issuance statistics, nobody from Pakistan has got the K3. So
yeah, there has been a rumor that keeps sticking, that people believe that if they file for a K3 that the I-130 is getting approved faster. But I've done several polls on that topic, and I just don't see it. So, I mean, it's free of cost. You can file it. I always say, be prepared for the worst case, because the foreign spouse may end up coming to the US and having to file adjustment of status. There's probably a 0.001% chance. I believe 1 or 2 K3 got issued last year in fiscal year 2022.
Right, you have to go to non-immigrant
visa. Then if you get a K3 visa issued, you come to the US and don't have the rights that you have from a spousal visa. So yeah.
Let's go to Islamabad and see how many people got K3s in September. September is the last month where we have statistics, unfortunately.
Probably none. There are like 2 for Islamabad, not at all. But I think overall there were like 2 K3s worldwide last year.
Yeah. So there were 0. So if that happens, you would be the unicorn. So
we would all cheer for you though if you get that.
Yes. And also we would follow you. There would be 1,000 applicants right after you. Okay, let's see if there's another question here. Shahzaib said, thank you. Mohammed says, thank you very much. Explained very well. Okay, I don't like to go over. Rabea, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for joining.
I'm going to be responding to questions on WhatsApp and email and phone. You can call me for the rest of the day. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, but I'll be working then too a little bit. Okay. If you call me and it goes to voicemail, text me. And hopefully that if you're interested, you'll get this together by Friday, because it's a hard deadline. We want to file the case since December 1st. It would not be fair to the people who registered first if we waited for the late comers. Okay. So if you're interested, make it happen. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.